On my birthday, my parents humiliated me in front of 35 relatives, handed me a $121,000 bill, and fired me. They thought they won, but I'm not done yet. I'm writing because I want people to understand what occurred before I do what I'm going to do. My phone contains 54 missed calls from my mother, Clara, 45 from my father, John, and 28 from my sister, Sophia. They have been bombing up my phone since Friday a.m., and it is just Monday afternoon. I haven't responded to a single one, and I won't. Let me go back to last Thursday, my 29th birthday. My parents insisted on hosting me a large family dinner at their home. They mentioned that it would be good to get everyone together as we hadn't had a major gathering in a long. I should have realized something was amiss when my mother expressly instructed me to arrive at 6 p.m. sharp and well-dressed. She kept emphasizing how crucial this was and how I needed to be there on time. I arrived at 5:55 p.m. There were automobiles everywhere. I counted at least 18 automobiles in the driveway and on the street. When I stepped in, the living and dining rooms were crowded with relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandmother, and acquaintances I hadn't seen in years. Someone had set up a huge table of food. Everybody was dressed up. It resembled a wedding banquet. My sister Sophia was standing at the door with a strange expression on her face. She asked me to come into the dining room because Mom and Dad wanted to make an announcement. I assumed they were going to give an uncomfortable birthday speech or show old baby photographs. Standard parent stuff. John stood at the head of the table, clinking his glass. Everyone became silent. He began discussing how they had reared me for 29 years, how they had sacrificed everything and given me every chance. His tone seemed strange. It was neither friendly or jubilant. It seemed chilly and official, as if he were reading a prepared statement. Then Clara got up. She stepped over to the wall with family portraits displayed. She took my high school graduation photo, pulled it off the wall, and dumped it in the garbage can they had set up nearby. Then she removed another photo of me, and another. Every time she threw one out, she said something. You were always ungrateful. You have never appreciated what we have given you. You're a failure who emptied us completely. The room was totally quiet. Nobody moved. Nobody mentioned anything. My granny held her palm over her lips. My cousin was taping with his phone. I just stood there, trying to understand what was occurring. John took out a manila packet and handed it to me. Inside was a printed document. The top said, "Invoice for parenting services rendered," and itemized every expenditure they claimed to have incurred while parenting me. Diapers, formula, clothes, school supplies, auto insurance, college fees, and line items dating back 29 years. The sum at the bottom was $121,000. He informed me that they had squandered every penny raising an ungrateful kid who never amounted to anything. He told me I had two options: repay them in full or never touch them again. He stated they were finished being my parents. I was officially cut off from my family. Sophia moved forward and extended her hand. She instructed me to give her my car keys. I was perplexed until John clarified that the automobile I had been driving was still officially in his name. He had been allowing me to use it, but now he was transferring the title to Sophia. She needed a nicer automobile nevertheless. Sophia immediately removed the keys from my grasp and placed them in her handbag. That's when I recognized Ethan, my supervisor from work, sitting at the far end of the table. He was present for my parents' birthday dinner for me. Clara indicated to him, saying they'd asked him to hear the truth about who I truly was. Ethan stepped up and informed me that he had had a lengthy talk with my parents earlier that week. They had expressed some concerns regarding my character and work ethic. He stated, based on their feedback and his own findings, he was terminating my employment effective immediately. I should clean my desk on Monday morning. I need you to comprehend something. I did not weep. I did not shout. I did not question why or urge them to rethink. I looked around the room full of relatives and family friends who had come to see my humiliation. I stared at my parents, my sister, and my old boss before turning around and walking out. I phoned an Uber from the sidewalk. I returned to my flat and started making arrangements. Here's what my parents didn't know. I had been planning for anything like this for 3 years. Not quite this scenario, but I'd known for a while that our relationship was failing. They'd been telling me for years that I was a disappointment, that I wasn't living up to their expectations, and that I owed them all they'd done. The intensity has increased since I began making my own decisions about my life rather than following their suggested route. My father wanted me to go medical school. I went to tech support instead. My mother urged me to participate in her religious activities and social clubs. I stopped going after college. They wanted me to date Sophia's pals and join the country club. I didn't either. Every decision I took that deviated from their vision fueled greater animosity. My parents are all about appearance, prestige, what their relatives and friends think. They needed everyone to perceive them as beautiful parents with flawless children leading perfect lives. I wasn't going along with that story anymore, so they chose to openly remove me from it. What they didn't expect was that I am truly competent at my work. Very excellent. Ethan firing me was a problem that would be resolved after I contacted his regional boss, with whom I had worked directly on numerous important accounts. Ethan had no valid reasons for firing, and my parents could not give any serious performance problems. The automobile was unpleasant, but not disastrous. It was a 2015 sedan with 130,000 miles that need new brakes. Sophia could get it. The bill for $121,000 was legally useless. Parents cannot charge their children for parenting them. That document had no enforceability. It was completely theatrical. My parents were unaware that their theatrical presentation had witnesses. They humiliated their son on his birthday in front of 35 or more witnesses. Some of the witnesses had difficult ties with John and Clara. Some of them were curious about where particular family funds had gone over the years. Some of them recalled things that my parents undoubtedly wished they had forgotten. I spent Thursday night creating a list. I spent Friday investigating. By Saturday, I had collected phone numbers and email addresses. By Sunday, I had written many well-crafted notes. Friday morning, my phone started ringing. Bernadette came first, followed by Nicholas, and finally Emma. I let all calls go to voicemail. The initial messages were hostile. How dare I go away without saying anything? How could I disgrace them in front of their family? Did I believe I could simply ignore them? On Friday afternoon, the tone changed. They needed to chat with me. It was significant. There were some things they needed to explain. Could I simply answer the phone? Saturday, the calls became frantic. Clara left a voicemail stating that there had been some misunderstandings during the meal. Things had gone out of control. They had not intended for it to go that way. She wanted to meet for coffee and clear the air. Sunday morning, John left a voicemail explaining their faults and how they handled the situation. He wanted to talk about everything calmly and find out a way ahead as a family. Sophia texted me 12 times in a row on Sunday evening. Mom and Dad were panicking out. Relatives were phoning to ask questions. Some folks spoke terrible things. Grandmother was unhappy. I needed to call them back right now to let everyone know that I was all right and that we were working things out. I didn't reply to anything since this was what was happening. Those carefully written letters I had sent out on Sunday morning were making their way across the family network. Certain family were having certain chats. Questions were posed concerning John's financial actions throughout the years. Questions concerning why Clara's mother's wealth was dispersed in the manner it did. There are questions regarding what actually occurred with Sophia's college fund. I was not breaching any laws, I was not making anything up, I was only ensuring that the appropriate individuals know how to ask the relevant questions about what had actually occurred. My parents had been extremely cautious to keep things secret. Things they kept buried beneath their beautiful family picture. The calls kept coming. 54, 45, 28. I have preserved them all. Every voicemail in which the terror rises. Sophia uses different strategies to persuade me to reply to each text message she sends. They want to chat. They want to explain. They want me to make it stop. I'm not going to make it stop. I'm going to make things worse. Update 1. It's been 8 days since the birthday dinner, and I feel compelled to provide an update because this scenario has taken unexpected turns. The calls have not ceased. I currently have 94 missed calls from Clara, 76 from John, and 51 from Sophia. However, that is no longer the most intriguing element. Let me clarify what the texts I sent were. I did not make up anything or propagate falsehoods. I contacted certain relatives and asked them questions regarding specific occurrences that had occurred over the years. My parents meticulously crafted the narrative around certain events. My uncle Adam, John's younger brother, sent a telegram inquiring whether he would ever receive the $17,000 that Grandma Evelyn had left in her will. Adam was intended to receive that money, according to the will I discovered at Grandma's house years ago while assisting her with paperwork organization. I had always puzzled why he never mentioned it. My Aunt Lucy, Clara's sister, received a note inquiring about the funds from the sale of their mother's house following her death. Their mother had lived in the house for 40 years. It sold for $310,000. Lucy said at Thanksgiving that she had never seen any of the money. My cousin Luke, who is Adam's son and not my boss, received a note asking if he knew what happened to the college fund that our grandmother had put up for all of the grandchildren. She had set it up in 2005, with precise instructions that each grandchild would get an equal amount when they reached 18. I didn't instruct anyone what to do with the information. I merely asked questions. Questions that prompted individuals to consider issues that they had previously been too polite or conflict-averse to address. Monday morning, I dealt with a work scenario. I phoned the regional manager David, with whom I had worked closely on the software migration project last year. I mentioned that Ethan fired me on Friday without cause and without following correct protocol. David was perplexed since he had not been informed of any termination. When I informed him Ethan had made the choice based on a talk with my parents during a family meal, he was silent for a long time. Then he told me to sit tight and he'd call back. 2 hours later, David called back. Ethan was suspended pending an inquiry into illegal firing procedures. I was being reinstated, with back pay for the days I had missed. David apologized for what had occurred and stated that he would be checking in with me personally to ensure that there were no retribution concerns moving ahead. So I got my job back. That was one problem fixed. The automobile scenario was more unpleasant. I looked into my alternatives and decided that while John officially owned the automobile and freely transferred it to Sophia, I had no legal right to reclaim it. It didn't matter that I had been paying the insurance and maintenance bills. His name was on the title. I started riding the bus to work and browsing used vehicle listings online. On Wednesday afternoon, my uncle Adam called me. Not texted, but genuinely phoned. I responded because Adam had always been nice to me, and I was interested about what he wanted. He got right to the point. He'd been reading through old paperwork after I sent that letter, and he had discovered the original copy of Grandma Evelyn's will. He had never received the $17,000. John served as the estate's executor. Adam had inquired about it at the time, and John had informed him that the estate did not have sufficient liquid assets after paying bills and burial expenses. However, Adam had just requested the estate filing forms from the county clerk's office. After deducting all bills and fees, the estate had $52,000 available. John had submitted a form saying that the entire sum was used for burial and estate administration fees. Adam asked whether I knew anything about it. I told him I didn't know the details, but I was aware that John had paid off his truck about the same time and took Clara on an expensive vacation. Adam became quite silent. Then he informed me he was going to have a talk with John and wanted me to know how much he appreciated my query. Sophia visited my apartment on Thursday morning. I have no idea how she obtained my address because I moved here 6 months ago and had not provided it to any family members. She must have followed me to work or asked someone. She was there in the corridor when I went for my bus stop. She looked awful. Her eyes were red, and she had that feverish energy that comes with not getting enough sleep. She began chatting instantly. Mom and Dad were going crazy. Family members were continually phoning them. Uncle Adam had arrived at the house on Tuesday night with a copy of Grandma Evelyn's will, and there had been a heated argument. Aunt Lucy had hired someone to investigate the house transaction. Cousin Luke had called a lawyer over the college fund. Everyone was turning against them, and it was my fault. I asked Sophia why she believed I was responsible for John and Clara's actions. She said I stirred everything up on purpose. I had sent those texts to cause issues. I was attempting to destroy the family because I was upset over the birthday meal. I explained that I had just asked her questions regarding genuine events. If such queries were generating issues, perhaps she should investigate why. Sophia shifted tactics. She stated the birthday supper was Dad's idea, not Mom's. She stated her mother attempted to talk him out of it, but Dad was determined to teach me a lesson. She said they had both been drinking before the supper began, and things had gotten out of control. She told me I needed to realize that they were stressed, and that I hadn't made things simple for them. I inquired as to how much worry I had caused her. She became unclear. Just the regular things. I'd been distancing away from my family. I stopped attending gatherings. The way I refused to date her friend Melissa when they attempted to set us up. I picked an ordinary job rather than pursuing anything more ambitious, as they had desired. None of this explains the birthday meal. None of this explains the public humiliation. None of this explained the attempt to get me dismissed from my work. Sophia kept talking in circles, implying that everyone had made errors and that we should all just go on. I questioned her about the vehicle keys. She appeared uneasy. She said her father had informed her I wasn't operating the car correctly and that she needed a vehicle for her new work. I inquired about her new employment. She did not have an explanation for it. She had been working part-time at a boutique for the last year. Nothing had changed. I asked her whether she knew about the meal ahead of time and what they were planning. She took too long before saying no. That pause revealed all. She knew something was going to happen, though she didn't know exactly what. Sophia tries again. She told me I needed to call my parents. She suggested I should tell Uncle Adam, Aunt Lucy, and everyone else to stop asking questions. She stated the family was disintegrating and I was the only one who could restore it. I asked her why I wanted to solve it. She did not have a response to it either. Clara showed up to my office on Friday afternoon. I was in the break room when David came to locate me and informed me that there was someone in the lobby looking for me. When I got down, my mother was seated in one of the guest chairs, as if she were attending a business meeting. She was all dressed up with flawless hair, makeup, and full Clara armor. She told me we needed to speak quietly. I told her we could discuss right in the foyer. She looked around at the receptionist, the security guard, and the other individuals passing through. She stated that this was a family company and needed to be kept confidential. I informed her she had made our family business public by inviting 30 relatives to witness her toss my photographs away. If she wanted to speak with me now, she could do so here. Clara's composure cracked somewhat. She claimed I was being unfair and childish. She claimed she'd come here to apologize and attempt to make things right, but I was making that difficult. I asked her what she was sorry for explicitly. She started listing things in a theatrical manner. She was sorry that the meal had turned emotional. She felt remorseful for what had been uttered in fury. She was sorry I had been upset by what had transpired. I stopped her. I inquired whether she apologized for pulling my photographs off the wall. She said that this was one of the reasons she had become too emotional. I inquired if she was sorry for calling me useless and that I had emptied them empty. She stated she was unhappy and didn't intend it that way. I inquired whether she was sorry for encouraging my boss to dismiss me. She said that it was John's idea, and she had warned him it was too much. Every answer was a deflection. Every apology included an excuse, an explanation, or a method to deflect responsibility. I asked her what she wanted from me. She asked me to forgive them so they could go on as a family. She asked me to cease whatever I was doing that was causing family to ask all these inquiries. She claimed she wanted everything to return to normal. I told her there was no normal to return to. She ruined everything during the birthday supper. She said I was overreacting to one horrible night. I asked her whether she believed this was just one horrible night or 29 years of them seeing me as a disappointment because I didn't live the life they had intended for me. Clara stood up. She claimed she had attempted to be reasonable. She attempted to apologize, but I was determined to be tough and vengeful. She warned me that I would regret it once I learned I had ruined my own family over bruised feelings. Then she left the lobby. David had witnessed the entire event from the second-floor corridor. He came down thereafter and asked whether I was all right. I told him that I was okay. He stated that if she came up again, building security would handle it. He also stated that he had submitted an official complaint regarding Ethan's behavior and that there would be a thorough review procedure. Saturday, my phone rang 63 times. Sunday, it rang 41 times. I haven't responded any of them, but I did listen to the voicemails. They are becoming increasingly anxious and furious. John left one message in which he stated that I was pulling down all he'd constructed. Clara left one in which she said I was deceptive and harsh. Sophia left one weeping and claimed I was ruining her life as well since everyone was grilling her about stuff she had no idea about. The issue is, all I've done is ask questions about facts, about actual events that occurred. If those facts are producing issues for John and Clara, it is not my manipulation, it is the result of their actions. And this is only the beginning. I have more questions lined up. Questions regarding other family events and financial decisions. Other times when my parents' account of events differed from reality, I had years of observations saved up, but I kept silent about it all to maintain the peace. I am done preserving the peace. Update 2. It's been 17 days since the birthday dinner, and the issue has escalated in ways that are quite entertaining to see. I'm writing from a parking lot outside a grocery shop since I wanted to go out of my apartment for a time to process what had transpired. Missed calls have slowed. I'm 135 from Clara, 109 from John, and 76 from Sophia. But that's because they've switched tactics. Yesterday, a family gathering was held at my grandmother's house. I wasn't invited, yet I learned about every detail from 3 distinct sources within an hour of the event concluding. Let me catch up on what has happened since my last update. Uncle Mark filed a formal complaint in probate court over Grandma Evelyn's estate. He presented the original will and county documents indicating that the estate had $52,000 in liquid assets. He is requesting a detailed explanation of where the money went and why he never received his inheritance. John is now compelled to show paperwork or face legal ramifications for mismanaging the inheritance. Aunt Sarah hired someone to investigate her mother's house sale. Clara was also named as a co-executive for the estate. The home sold for $310,000. After paying off the mortgage and estate expenses, Sarah and Clara should have received an equal share of $200,000. Sarah got $30,000. Clara informed her that this was her complete share, after all additional charges and fees. Sarah's investigator discovered evidence indicating that the entire $200,000 was distributed, with $150,000 going to an account in Clara's name. My cousin Luke called the bank that handled Grandma Evelyn's college money trust. The trust was formed in 2005 with $60,000 and specific instructions that it be shared equally to all 5 grandkids when they reached 18. John had been designated as the trustee. Luke turned 18 in 2015. He never received money. When he inquired about it back then, John informed him that the fund had underperformed and had been drained due to market losses and management expenses. The bank presented Luke with the whole trust history. In 2015, the fund had increased to $80,000. Between 2015 and 2020, there were 5 withdrawals, each of which coincided with a grandchild's 18th birthday. Each withdrawal was for the whole balance in the account at the time. All 5 withdrawals were made to an account held by John and Clara. So now there are 3 distinct cases in which my parents were in control of family money and it vanished. I did not cause any of this. I simply posed the questions that prompted folks to look at records they should have reviewed years ago. Sophia visited my flat again on Tuesday afternoon. This time she was accompanied by a tall man dressed in an expensive suit whom I did not recognize. Sophia presented him as her legal buddy who was coming to assist us sort things out. I asked Sophia why we needed a lawyer to speak. She stated that things had grown difficult and that someone impartial should intervene before things worsened. The lawyer, whose name I quickly forgot, began discussing family reconciliation and how litigation between family members never ends well for anybody. He said he had evaluated the case and that there were definitely some misconceptions that could be resolved via open conversation. He advised that we all sit down together, parents and children, and discuss everything calmly with him there to keep things productive. I inquired who was paying him. He explained he was doing this as a favor for Sophia. I asked Sophia how she met this lawyer. She became hazy again. She'd met him through friends. He'd volunteered to assist when he learned about our family problems. I asked him explicitly who had approached him initially. He stated Sophia had contacted him but Clara had supplied him with background information on the incident. So my mother had Sophia send a lawyer to my apartment to attempt to get me to sit down for a mediated talk. I told them I was not interested. The lawyer said I was making a mistake. He stated that families that allow issues to grow into court fights frequently damage ties forever. I informed him that the relationships had already been damaged during a birthday dinner 17 days earlier. Sophia began weeping. This time the tears were genuine, not staged. She claimed I was spoiling everything. She said that her parents were splitting up. She mentioned Uncle Mark was not speaking to them. She said Aunt Sarah had shouted at Mom over the phone for 20 minutes. She stated that the entire family was taking sides, and she was caught in the midst. She said I had to repair this since I was the one who began it. I asked Sophia whether she knew anything about the missing money, such as Mark's inheritance, Sarah's house sale profits, and the college fund that vanished. She said she knew nothing about any of it. I asked her whether she thought Mom and Dad had reasonable reasons for where all the money went. She stated that there needed to be explanations. She denied that her parents were thieves. She stated that there were most likely misunderstandings and errors in documentation. I questioned her if she truly believed it or if she was simply trying to convince herself. She didn't respond. The lawyer attempted to resume mediation discussions. I instructed both of them to go. Sophia kept weeping. The lawyer put a business card on my kitchen counter. They departed. Wednesday, I received a text from my grandma. She received a text message rather than a phone call, which was uncommon given that she is 81 years old and hardly understands how to operate her phone. The text stated that she wanted to see me. She informed me that the family was meeting at her place on Saturday afternoon, and I needed to be there. She stated it was vital, but she wasn't asking. I texted back to see whether John and Clara would be there. She claimed everyone will be there. I inquired whether this was an ambush. She said that it was a family gathering to discuss important topics, and my presence was needed. I assured her that I would think about it. Clara contacted me on Thursday from an unfamiliar number. I responded since I suspected it may be work-related. She began chatting instantly. She stated I had won. She said I had effectively turned the family against them. She said I had ruined their reputation and connections with everyone they cared about. She replied, "I must be very proud of myself." I wondered whether she was phoning to blame me for the repercussions of her own conduct. She said I orchestrated the issue to make them appear terrible. She said I asked questions in a way that made people suspect, even though there were perfectly plausible explanations for everything. I asked her what a logical argument was for withholding Adam's $17,000 inheritance. She indicated the estate had debts I wasn't aware of. I asked her what the plausible argument was for withholding $130,000 from Sarah's property selling proceeds. She stated that there had been additional estate fees that Sarah did not comprehend. I asked her why she hadn't mentioned these expenditures to Adam and Sarah earlier, and why she had led them to assume they had gotten their whole inheritance. She claimed it was complex, and I wouldn't understand because I'd never managed a family estate. I told her she was correct, and I couldn't comprehend how someone could take from their own family members while sleeping at night. Clara's tone changed entirely. She stated I didn't know what I was talking about. She said she and John had given all for this family. She said that they had put everyone else first for decades. She said that if they had spent any of that money for their own needs, they would have earned it over the years by taking care of everyone else's concerns. I asked her whether Adam and Sarah understood they had gained the right to steal money that was not theirs. She hung up. On Friday morning, John called from the same mysterious number. He took a different strategy. He stated he knew I was upset over the birthday meal. He admitted that he had handled things poorly and regretted the way he tackled the problem. He said he was attempting to educate me about responsibility and appreciation, but he had gone too far. He stated that he wanted to set things right. I asked him what doing things right looked like. He suggested we could sit down as a family and discuss everything. He stated we could resolve the difficulties with Adam, Sarah, and Luke. He stated that there were answers to the financial issues that people were asking, and he wanted an opportunity to adequately explain them. He stated if I attended to the family meeting on Saturday, he'd address any issues I had and we could begin to re-establish trust. I inquired whether he was going to write Adam a check for $17,000. He claimed it was not that simple. I asked him whether he was going to write Sarah a check for $130,000. He stated that the estate circumstances were legally complicated and required adequate paperwork and assessment. I inquired if he would refund the money from the college fund that was intended to go to his 5 grandkids. He stated that the money had been utilized for family needs throughout the years, and there was no pool of cash waiting to be returned. So basically, he asked me to attend a family gathering where he would explain why he was justified in hoarding money that belonged to others. I told him I was not interested in his explanations. He said I owed him an opportunity to defend himself. I told him he had 17 days to explain himself, but he spent it contacting me 109 times and sending Sophia with a lawyer to put pressure on me. He said I was being unfair and vengeful. I hung up. Saturday morning, Sophia texted me 8 more times. She begged me to come to Grandma's place. She claimed everyone would be there, and here was my chance to hear my mother and father's perspectives. She stated if I didn't come, I was demonstrating that I didn't care about the truth and only wanted to make trouble. She stated Grandma was furious because I refused to attend. She claimed that my absence was exacerbating the situation. I didn't attend the family gathering. Instead, I sat at my apartment, waiting for the expected developments. At 3:47 p.m., I received a text from cousin Luke. The meeting had been disastrous. John and Clara attempted to explain the financial position, but were unable to offer any concrete proof to back up their statements. Uncle Mark had brought a lawyer. Aunt Sarah had presented the investigator's report. They had addressed John and Clara with precise statistics, dates, and requests for responsibility. According to Luke, John began ranting that everyone was ganging up on them due to misunderstanding. Clara had sobbed, saying they had devoted their entire life to this family, and this was how they were being compensated. Sophia defended them, claiming that everyone was being harsh. Grandma struggled to maintain order but ultimately gave up. Adam and Sarah both stated that they were seeking legal action. John had stated that if that was what they intended, he would battle them in court. Everyone had departed angrily. At 4:15 p.m., Grandma left me a voice message. She expressed disappointment that I had not gone to the meeting. She stated that families should address challenges together, rather than avoiding them. She stated I began this issue and it was my obligation to see it through. She stated she had no idea what I was trying to accomplish, but I was ripping the family apart. I sat in my flat and listened to the message 3 times. My grandma, whom I had always loved and respected, blamed me for driving the family apart. Not John for accepting money that was not his. Not Clara for lying regarding estate distribution. Not the 2 of them for publicly embarrassing me at my birthday dinner. I asked inquiries about where the money went. That's when I understood they had also gotten to her. They'd persuaded her that the true issue wasn't what they'd done, but rather that I'd revealed it. And if they had convinced her, they were undoubtedly attempting to persuade everyone else in the same manner. I am not backing down. This meeting was not the end. It was only affirmation that John and Clara have no intention of accepting true responsibility for what they had done. They aim to control the narrative by making themselves the victims. But I still have more moves to make, since here's what they don't know yet. I've started collecting receipts on my own. Documentation of every time they lied about me to others. They've always manipulated events to their advantage. Every time they've utilized familial bonds to corrupt and control individuals. I'm ready to begin revealing the evidence. Final update. It's been 29 days since the birthday supper. This is probably my final update because there isn't much more to say. John and Clara are facing repercussions that they cannot negotiate or maneuver their way out of. Sophia has finally had to embrace some difficult facts, and I am precisely where I want to be. The week after the disastrous family meeting, things picked up. Uncle Mark petitioned the probate court for a complete examination into how Grandma Evelyn's estate was handled. Aunt Sarah initiated a legal lawsuit against Clara for the missing $130,000 from their mother's property sale. Cousin Luke and the other grandkids hired a lawyer to reclaim the college fund money. According to Sophia, when she arrived at my flat for the third time, my parents hired their own lawyer, which was rather costly. She was frantic. She stated that Mom and Dad were drowning in legal bills. She explained that they would have to sell the house to pay for their defense. She said that everything was out of control and that the only way to stop it was for me to advise everyone to abandon their cases. I asked Sophia why she felt I have that power. She said that everyone knew I had begun this. She stated if I publicly admitted that I had been incorrect to raise concerns and that I felt Mom and Dad had fair answers, then the family would back away. I asked her if she felt her parents had fair excuses for stealing money from others. She stated there may be explanations we didn't comprehend. I told Sophia I was done shielding her from reality. I pulled out my phone and showed her something I had been keeping on to. Screenshots of Clara and Sophia's text chats from 2 months before their birthday meal. Clara complained about me in messages, claiming I was an embarrassment to the family, that I needed to be taught a lesson about respect and thanks, and that she and John were plotting something to put me in my proper place. Sophia's face became white. She said she didn't recall such chats. I scrolled through more texts. Sophia acknowledged that I had been harsh. Ones in which she suggested a wake-up call for me. When she asked Clara what her parents were preparing for her birthday, she stated it would be one she would never forget. I asked Sophia whether she still wanted to say she had no idea about the birthday meal prior. She began weeping again. She stated she didn't know the specifics. She explained that she had assumed they were just going to have a serious chat with me in front of the family. She claimed she had no knowledge of the images, the invoice, or my termination. She admitted that when it happened, she was stunned as well, but she had no idea what to do. I questioned her why she had taken the car keys. She stated her father had told her to. She said that he had stated that the automobile was his property and that I no longer deserved it. She said she felt strange about it, but she did what he wanted since he was her father. I asked her if she felt strange about driving my car around while I took the bus to work. She didn't respond. I showed her further screenshots. These were based on my own years of observation. I collected messages in which Clara lied to relatives about why I wasn't attending family occasions. Emails in which John informed extended relatives that I was struggling financially and could not be relied on, despite the fact that I was doing well. Text threads in which they trash-talked me to other family members for not following their life plan. Sophia questioned why I had retained all of this. I told her I'd been collecting records for 3 years because I knew they'd ultimately go too far and I'd need proof that this wasn't unexpected or one-sided. The birthday supper had only served as a trigger. The proof of their manipulative and dominating behavior dates back years. Sophia inquired what I wanted from her. I told her I did not want anything from her. She'd made the decision to side with them. She was aware that something was planned, so she took part. She had taken my automobile. She had brought a lawyer to my flat to put pressure on me. She'd spent a month attempting to persuade me that I was the problem. I was also done with her. She went, and I have not heard from her since. That was 11 days ago. Last Tuesday, John arrived at my apartment complex. He did not come to my door. He waited outside on the sidewalk. When I went for work in the morning, he was standing there. He looked awful. He had lost weight. His clothing appeared to have slept in. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 4 weeks. He began chatting instantly. He stated we needed to have a genuine chat, just the two of us, with no attorneys, other family members, or anybody else interfering. He said that I needed to understand the family finances and his actions throughout the years. He claimed that everything he had done had been for excellent reasons, which I was too young to grasp. I informed him I was 26 years old and completely knew that he had taken from his brother, his wife's sister, and his own grandkids. He said it was not stealing. He said that he had been managing family finances. He said that when you are in charge of many estates and trust funds, you must make judgments about where the money is most required. He stated that the money had been used to cover vital household expenses. I asked him what significant family expenses required $17,000 from Adam's bequest. He stated that they were in substantial debt at the time, and that if they lost their home, the entire family would suffer. I asked him why he didn't explain it to Adam and requested to borrow the money. He said Adam would not have grasped the urgency, and there was no time for talks. I asked him about Sarah's $130,000 house sale. He claimed Clara's sister had never been good with money, and they were scared she would spend her inheritance. He explained that they had planned to send her the money in reasonable sums over time, but Sarah had ceased interacting with Clara due to a family quarrel, and the issue had grown problematic. I asked him about the college fund. He stated that the money has been utilized for family situations in the past when no other choices were available. He said that they had always intended to return it before the grandkids turned 18, but the financial situation had proven more challenging than anticipated. He stated that they had been working on a plan to recover the money before everything went wrong. Each response was a justification. Each theft was reframed as smart financial management. Every falsehood was rationalized as saving someone from oneself or avoiding a worse fate. I asked him if he truly believed what he was saying, or if he'd simply told himself these stories so many times that he'd convinced himself they were true. John became upset. He remarked, "I had no idea what it was like to be responsible for a family." He said I had spent 29 years receiving from them while doing nothing. He said I went to college on their money, lived in their house, drove their vehicle, and never thanked them properly. He said that when they attempted to teach me a lesson about thankfulness, I became enraged and destroyed everything out of anger. I informed him that the birthday supper was not a lesson, it was humiliating. It was a public execution, intended to punish me for not being the son Dad desired. I questioned why he had invited my boss. He stated they needed to teach me that disobeying your parents has genuine consequences. I inquired as to why he had handed me a phony invoice. He claimed he wanted me to know just how much I owed them. I asked him whether he recognized that everything that was going on right now was a direct result of his actions. Lawsuits, legal bills, and shattered family connections. All of it stemmed from his decision to steal money from family members and publicly humiliate his kid when he failed to meet his expectations. John responded, "I could stop everything." He said, "If I talked to Adam and Sarah and told them I'd misunderstood the financial situations, they'd listen to me." He said, "If I admitted I'd been angry and vindictive and had stirred up trouble on purpose, the family would forgive everyone and move on." He said I had the power to fix this, but I chose not to because I wanted to see them suffer. I assured him he was correct. I wanted to see them suffer. I had spent years watching them manipulate and dominate others. Years of seeing them offer this wonderful family picture while treating me as a failed investment. Years of knowing they were lying about their financial status but not having enough evidence to prove it. The birthday supper was my breaking point, and sure, I purposefully posed questions that would reveal what they had been hiding. John accused me of being manipulative and vengeful, exactly like them back then. I assured him that maybe I had learnt from the greatest. He stated that this would ruin them. They would lose their house. They'd lose their status inside the family. They would lose everything they had created. I reminded him that they had built it on falsehoods and stolen money, so perhaps they deserved to lose it. He looked at me for a long time. Then he told me I was dead to him. He said I'd made my decision, and now I'd have to live with no family. He warned it would be too late once I was older and alone to realize what I'd thrown away. I told him I had abandoned them at the birthday supper when Clara threw away my photographs. This was simply making things official. He walked away. That was 8 days ago. Clara tried again yesterday. She called from another unknown number. When I responded, she did not shout, weep, or blame. She simply sounded exhausted. She mentioned that they were placing the house on the market. The legal bills were very expensive, so they had to settle with Adam and Sarah rather than go to court. She said that they would be moving into a modest apartment. She added that Sophia was distraught since she had grown up in that house. I asked Clara why she was telling me this. She stated that she wanted me to know what I had accomplished. She said I set out to destroy them and succeeded. She said I should be proud. I asked her whether she had ever considered simply being honest with others. She described honesty as a luxury for those with no actual obligations. I inquired whether she regretted her birthday dinner. She expressed sadness that I had turned out to be the type of guy who would ruin his own family for injured emotions. I inquired whether she regretted stealing from family members. She expressed sorrow for entrusting family members with financial information that they were not sophisticated enough to grasp. I asked her whether there was any situation in which she would accept she and John had done something wrong. She claimed they had taken difficult judgments that individuals with narrow perspectives could not understand. I told her that was my response. Then we were finished. She stated we were done the night I stormed out of the birthday dinner without trying to understand their point of view. I hung up. It was yesterday morning. Cousin Luke texted me yesterday night to provide an update. John and Clara have decided to settle. They're paying Adam $30,000, which includes his initial bequest and interest. They are paying Sarah $150,000, which is what she should have gotten, plus an extra sum that was agreed. They are paying $50,000 total to the 5 grandkids to settle the college fund dilemma. The house sale will conclude next month. After paying the settlements and legal fees, they'll have enough money for a tiny apartment and perhaps a year's worth of living expenses. Sophia has been sharing on social media about how cruel and callous individuals can be, how families should forgive and support one another, and how harboring grudges kills lives. She hasn't named me by name, but everyone understands what she's talking about. She's getting compassionate responses from family members who don't know the entire situation. My grandma has not contacted me since that single voicemail. Uncle Mark wrote me a mail thanking me for raising the inquiry that resulted to him receiving his inheritance. Aunt Sarah sent one, claiming she'd always felt Clara had retained more of the home money, but she'd never had the confidence to request an investigation. Cousin Luke stated that the youngsters were sharing their settlement and spending it for legitimate educational expenditures as Grandma Evelyn had planned. I'm writing from the same apartment where I've lived for the past 6 months. Sophia discovered the address to the flat that my parents had no idea about. I rode the bus to work this morning. I will take it home tonight. I've been looking at second-hand automobiles, but I'm not in a rush. My employment is secure. David contacted me last week and confirmed that Ethan is no longer with the organization. There was a formal determination that he had violated termination processes and demonstrated prejudice in personnel choices. 2 days ago, I purchased a tiny birthday cake from the grocery shop. I ate a slice while sitting on my kitchen counter at 29 years old. There is no family that claims me, no parents who speak to me, no sister who acknowledges me, and I am good with that. Better than fine, because I am no longer bearing their falsehoods. I'm no longer safeguarding their image. I'm not pretending their version of events is true anymore. They intended to officially disown me and present me with a bill for rearing me. They intended to embarrass me in front of 35 relatives. They accomplished exactly what they set out to do. Every consequence people face is the result of their own decisions. They stole money, fabricated falsehoods, and intended to harm their kid during a birthday dinner. I did not destroy them. They wrecked themselves, and I simply made sure everyone saw it clearly. My phone hasn't rang in 3 days. The apartment is peaceful, and I've been precisely where I wanted to be since I walked out of that birthday meal. I'm free of them, done with their manipulation, and done with disappointing them. They threw me a birthday dinner to disown me. They succeeded, and now they have to deal with the actual costs.